What's up, you guys? It's your boy 3 Stacks in this thing, representing the squad as always. One of my subscribers actually issued a challenge to me not too long ago, and it was for pure Crystrons. He was just saying that the deck doesn't get too much love, and he's like, he knows it's gonna be great when Needlefiber comes out, but he wanted to see, somebody to do something with the deck before Needlefiber comes out. And honestly, I agree with them. The deck is great. It's really sophisticated. It fits my caliber of playstyle. I like challenging decks that really force me to actually think through my plays. Not like autopilot, not like simple helmet decks. I like really combo heavy oriented and decks that still have a control aspect to them. And this deck was just one of the decks that stole my heart. So we're gonna go over my version of pure Crystrons. You can check out my Crystron True King, True Draco, Zodiac Metalfoil build. You can check out my Crystron Metalfoil build. You can check, there's like a lot of builds you can check out with me doing Crystrons, but this is the first one that I'm showcasing that's pure since like 4 months ago. So let's hop right into the monster count. Also, starting off with your Crystron monster lineup, you want to play 2 copies of Sulfenir. Now, the reason why you don't actually want to play 3 of this card is simply because once you have 1, you can special him from the graveyard every single turn, so the second one is not needed. And also, you can never discard a copy of his self, so like 3 can just be a little bricky. And at the same time, you want to play 2 because if something happens to the first one, if you have to banish it for whatever reason, you have the second one just in case. And also, they increase the odds of opening with this. You don't always have to waste a search, but if you don't have this card in your hand, you're always going to be searching for it because it is like one of the biggest combo enablers for this deck. This deck goes through a lot of different lines of plays just to get to like a solid extra deck monster. So like you'll have a lot of combos where you'll end on just like one beefy synchro, or you can just sit on a Quandax, or you can sit on your Crystron tuners and make the play on your opponent's turn to make it more devastating. And then you have 3 copies of this Fern. This Fern is going to search any Crystron monster. For those of you who do not understand the Crystron archetype, every Crystron monster has an effect. Mine is Sulfenir. They have an effect where they can target a face-up card you control for cost, including themselves, destroy that target, and if you do, special summon 1 Crystron tuner from your deck. The only effect that differentiates between the Crystron is their secondary effect, which you banish them from the graveyard even the turn that they're sent to activate it. You banish him to search. But they have the consistency and the equivalent of an Alistair the Invoker or a Zodiac Barrage or any Zodiac monster being a 1-card combo. Because when you bring out the tuners make synchro plays by themselves. So it's literally like 1-card combo. You can have 4 bad cards in hand and 1 Crystron monster, and you can still make plays off that 1 Crystron monster. So they're really consistent. They're very versatile and also very tenacious. They're not an easy deck to just tank with. They can go pretty far. And then Sulfenir, he pretty much lets you discard a Crystron card from your hand to special him from the hand or the graveyard. And then if you do special summon him that way, you destroy 1 card you control. And then if he is destroyed by battle or card effect, he special summons any Crystron from the deck except himself. So he's pretty busted. I'm not gonna lie, like Sulfenir is amazing. Then you have 3 copies of Smiter. Smiter is gonna search out your spells and your traps. These are the only Crystrons that like I play 3 at because they search out my engine cards. Like they're important. The other Crystrons that I play are 2 copies of Rosenix. Rosenix is pretty good. You can consider him. He can be considered the equivalent or caliber of a extender, a play extender, because the token that he gives you can be the card that you need to pop instead of wasting a card like that you actually want to keep. It can also be link fodder. It can be a synchro fodder. Like I love using Rosenix token to synchro summon because it helps me to make Trishula easier. It helps me to make level 4 synchros easier. Rosenix is really strong, and it's level 4, and it's 1800. So it's a really, really good standalone card. It's the biggest monster that you can normal summon in the deck, what actually matters. And then I play 2 turtles. I actually love turtles. They're like my favorite kind of pets. And I really like this guy because he looks like a turtle. But he's going to special summon any Crystron monster from your hand. And that helps out a lot because sometimes you need to use your normal summon on your Scrap Recycler or your Mathematician. And that's really important that you do use your normal summon on those cards. So he can help you just to get an extra body on field when you feel like you can make a combo happen and you're like, dang, all I need is just 1 extra Crystron body on the field. He'll help you out with that. And that's it for the non-tuner Crystron monsters. Then for the tuners, which is pretty much the most important part of this deck, your tuners, I'm not going to lie, man, they're pretty savage. Like, they're 1-card combos just like their Crystrons are. So you play 3 Rion. The reason why I play 3 Rion, because one of my first turn combos, I go through 2 Rions, and I actually need a third one handy in my deck. Like, I need it. And you can actually live off of 1 Rion, because every time you synchro something with him using his monster effect, he puts himself back into the main deck, which is it's pretty dope, dude. Like, if you ask me, like, this tuner has longevity. He'll make sure that you can never deck out, because the synchro materials, if you use him and another monster, whatever synchro materials they are, they always go to the deck. So every time you synchro, you're putting 2 cards back into your deck. Really, really strong. But like I said, you play 3 because there's a certain Crystron synchro that requires 2 tuners. So you want to use 2 of him and 1 level 3 because it's a level 9, and bam, you just make it just like that. So Rion is, like, honestly, he's one of the most important ones simply because of his level and also because of his effect. And he recycles stuff from your banish zone. He's going to target a non-tuner that's banished and special it from the banish zone, then immediately synchro summon during your opponent's main phase or battle phase. And then you have 3 copies of Citri. I don't know why. My nose is kind of stuffy, you guys. Sorry. But you have 3 copies of Citri. Citri is going to be basically special summoning any non-tuner from your graveyard and then immediately synchro after that. And they only synchro summon into machines when you use their effects. So just keep in mind that you want to play a vast majority of machines in your extra deck because that's really what they limit you to going into. There are a lot of really good combos that you can do turn 1 where you don't have to restrict yourself from only summoning machines. But they can only go into machines. So you are limited in the options in that aspect. But when you're using Quandax, the level 4 tuner synchro, you can go into anything. But Citri is pretty important. And he banishes them after you synchro with them, which is really important because your banish zone and your graveyard are your 2 most important pools of resources when you're playing Crystrons. They make sure that no matter what, you don't need cards in your hand because you can make plays through the banish zone and also through your graveyard. So it helps if you either get hand trapped, if somebody Omega loots you, if for some reason you just lose cards out of your hand, you can always make plays with no cards in hand just through your graveyard and your banish zone. I played 2 Rich Homie Quans. The same reason for playing 3 Rions. Rich Homie Quan, one of my combos, I actually need to summon Rich Homie from my deck and synchro with him, and I need to have an extra copy handy just in case I want to actually bring him out from my deck with the Crystron Monsters effect for the follow-up. So I like having the extra copy of him, and his level being 1 is really important because him and Rosenix are how I make my formula Synchron, because he's a level 1 and Rosenix gives you the level 1 token. So he's pretty important. I play 8 tuners, which it's pretty hefty when you consider the standard Crystron lineup is normally like this. It's something like this, or it's even like this. Normally, this is what it looks like. That's the standard lineup if you're just like a standard Crystron player. But through strenuous playtesting and personal experience, I've realized like this ratio works better for me because sometimes when I'm playing, I run out of targets and I'm like, dang, if I had a 3rd Rion, dang, if I had a 2nd Quan, then I was like, forget all the shit coulda woulda. I'm just gonna add in the 3rd Rion, and it helps. And then for your combo enablers that aren't Crystrons, I don't have 3 Scrap Recyclers, but this should be 3 because this card is busted. And then I should have 2 Mathmans because if I'm not mistaken, the ban list put him to 2. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You can correct me if you want, but I believe he's at 2. So you're gonna I should be playing 3 Scrap Recyclers and 2 Mathmans. They're the standalone normal summons. These actually enable you to do some really, really nutty stuff. This deck is full of shenanigans. That's pretty much it for the monster lineup. For your spells, you play 3 copies of Transmodify and 3 copies of Downbeat. These spells are really important. In fact, opening up with 1 of each in your opening hand is really, really disgusting. There's really no limit, and it opens up a myriad of options for you to do whatever you basically want. There's no limit at that point when you have Transmodify and Downbeat. And it's important to climb up levels, and it's important to climb down levels. That's why I opted to play 3 of each. I don't care if they are hard ones for turns. They're so important to me that I really need to play them at 3. I really need to see at least 1 of them in my opening hand, and it's ideal to have 2, 1 of each, because it's incredible. But you play levels from 1 all the way up until 5, like literally level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then vice versa from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So your levels are really, really diverse, and it gives you a lot of options for your plays because Downbeat can even summon out your Rich Homie Quan from the deck without putting you under the restriction that Crystrons have. Because I forgot to tell you that if you use their effect to destroy a face-up card and summon a Crystron tuner from your deck, for the rest of the turn, you cannot special any monsters from your extra deck except machine-type synchros, but it's only for the rest of your turn. So let's say you Trishula your opponent and then use their effects, then you're restricted to only machines because it's for the rest of the turn. But I like to sometimes be able to tutor my tuners out of my deck without putting myself under that restriction, because turn 1, I'm trying to like Trish, I'm trying to Vermilion Dragon Mech, you know, I'm trying to make Miss Starboy, stuff like that, and those are not machine types, obviously, so these help me to tutor my tuners out of my deck without putting myself under the restriction that the Crystron monsters would put me under. So there's so many good reasons to play these cards. Honestly, I really wouldn't recommend not playing these cards. I would say, if anything, these are like mandatory, especially down B. Like, I'm so glad we got it. And then 2, Marray of Greed. Your deck is pretty much all waters. The only reason why I'm playing Marray of Greed is because I play 8 tuners, right? And it's not ideal to draw more than one of them. It's okay to draw 1, but when you draw 2, which can happen because you play 8 of them, you really want to put them back into your deck where they belong. So I play 2 Marrays of Greed, and it also helps just to fix your hand, draw better cards. It's kind of like a pseudo Skull Dread, but not really. Then I play 2 different Dimension Deep Sea Trench. This card, I really need a bump to 3 because this is like a god card in this deck. You banish, when this card resolves, you banish a water monster from your hand or your graveyard or your field, I believe. Yeah, and then if this card's destroyed, you special summon that banished water monster. So a lot of the times I'll use this. You can even like bring back synchro monsters that were properly synchro summoned in the first place. But a lot of times I'm using a matrix, right? And I'm gonna hit him off. I'm gonna hit him on the field and then pop him with the Crystron effect, like a Sulfoneer, for example. Sulfoneer's effect, pop him. Use his effect, Monster Reborn or Crystron, then activate this, banish him, then use a Crystron, pop this, then effect, special this, and then special summon from the deck. It goes bananas. Like, you go so bananas, your opponent won't know what to hand trap. Like, the deck is full of Ash Bait. Everything summons from the deck. So they always will ash the wrong card because everything is ashable. And they don't know what's the most important line to play because who knows how Crystron's actually work. And when we get Needlefiber, it's going to be insane. And I play 3 field spells with no terraformings. The reason why I don't play terraformings is because I actually don't care about my field spells. I don't care so much that I want to search them. They're just nice to have, but they're really not mandatory. Starlight Junction is the one I chose to play at 2 because it allows you to play on your opponent's turn. Whenever you synchro summon during your opponent's turn, you shuffle a card from the field to the deck. And I believe that's you can only use that effect once per turn. So another reason why you don't really need to see multiples of this. And 1 Crystallic Potential. During your end phase, you draw a card for each Crystron monster that was synchro summoned. So it can be pretty disgusting, but I've never been able to draw more than 2 off of it. I guess it's not that great. It just doesn't really come up where you can draw 3, but it's kind of like a True Draco Heritage, but not really, just kind of, because like you draw based on whatever you hit on the field, basically. And then for the traps, you only play 4, and they're only the searchable ones: 3 impact and 1 entry. Impact is the best one. It summons from your banish zone. It protects your Crystron's from being targeted. You could just banish it from the grave, protect them from the target, and oh yeah, that's the other thing I missed. It makes all your monsters' defense become 0, and that combos very, very well with a Matrix because he changes all your opponent's monsters to defense, and then this makes them 0, so you can run over anything. So it's really, really cool. But the most important aspect of this trap is that it recycles from your banish zone. This card is a 1-card combo. When you special summon a banished Crystron tuner and then activate its effect during your opponent's turn to synchro summon, this is like a comeback. It's a follow-up. And it's not ashable. It's not over. You can't hand trap it. So it's one of your ways to make plays without being interrupted through a hand trap. And then you have Crystron entry. Basically, you special summon 1 Crystron tuner from your hand and 1 from your graveyard. And that's its effect on activation. Then during either player's turn, except the turn it was sent, you can banish this card from the graveyard, target 1 Crystron monster you control, whose level, and then you target 1 Crystron monster you control, and then you send 1 Crystron monster from your deck to the graveyard whose level's different from that monster. And if you do, you change that Crystron monster's level to that. So it helps you to make different kind of synchro summoning happen, synchro summoning plays happen, and also it contributes to loading your grave with the Crystron monsters that need to be banished for their effects. It's a really, really nice searchable one-up, and because I play 8 tuners, it's always going to be live. It's never really not, and it also helps with the problem where sometimes I draw the tuners, right? So I feel like it was a nice one-up. It's necessary to me. It's a 40 card in main deck exactly, no more, no less. It's so combo-centric. It's so sophisticated. I felt like 40 cards was just the go-to. You can even toss an upstart in there if you want to. Pot of Desires is not recommended for this list for so many different reasons. I don't even want to go over the list of reasons. Just don't play Pot. For the extra deck, you have Trishula. You always make this turn 1. It's one of the easiest monsters to make. There are even times when I find that I can actually go into Calamities, but also other times when I'm able to, I'm still under the restriction where I can only summon machine types. But Trishula is just really, really strong. Then you have Carrion Quandrax. He's like Trishula, but worse. He banishes monsters on the field or the graveyard up to the number of monsters you use for a synchro summon. The minimum you always use is 3 because you have to use 2 non-tuners. You have to use 2 tuners and then 1 non-tuner. And that's how he works. And then if he's destroyed, all Crystron synchro monsters float in some way, shape, or form. If he's destroyed, he targets a monster in either player's banish zone and specials it. So I can bring your banished monster to my side of the field. That's what he says in his card text. Then Crystron Phoenix, she basically banishes, I believe, all spells and traps your opponent controls from their field or their graveyard. This is going to be your trump card in your True Draco matchup to banish all of Masterpiece's targets, banish the Apocalypse and the Heritages so they don't pop anything. They never get sent from the field to the grave. They just get banished. And then if this card is destroyed, you Monster Reborn, basically. You target one monster other than itself in your graveyard and special summon it. So this is like your Monster Reborn. And I know that I don't have Monster Reborn in my main deck, but I do have Monster Reborns in the form of my Synchros. Vermilion Dragon Mech. Now, this is just a tech. Similar to Trishula, it's one of the plays you can make that is pretty strong turn 1. This is really good because pretty much on field, it's going to be like not even a Scrap Dragon. It's just going to be better. You're just going to be able to keep popping cards. And then whenever it dies, you're going to add back any of your banished Crystron tuners. And that becomes a 1-card combo. You're never actually summoning this guy to pop himself. You actually want to keep him on the field as long as possible and continue to cycle through your engine because banishing is really important. And adding from your banish zone is really important too. So he's an ideal staple in this extra deck. I opt to play 3 a Matrix because he's actually one of my favorite plays to go into. Turn 1, I need to summon like 1 to 2. So the third one comes up because you need one to go into on your opponent's turn. And whenever he summoned, you put all monsters your opponent controls in defense, which stops you from being OTK'd and it combos well with impact. Then if he's destroyed, he specials any Crystron monster from your graveyard that's not a Synchro monster. So he's Monster Reborn for anything that's not the Synchros. But you could bring back Sulfaneer, float with Sulfaneer. Sulfaneer will float into something else. Like, it's really strong. Then you have 2 Quandax. Quandax is pretty much your Formula Synchron that's a level 4. It's generic, and it summons generic Synchros. It doesn't restrict you from anything. So this is how you Black Rose your opponent on your opponent's turn. But for some reason, I forgot to put my Black Rose in here. My Black Rose was in my extra deck, but I kind of switch it from between decks, if it makes sense. Like, I don't have enough Black Roses for all my decks. So, like, right now, the Black Rose that was in this deck is currently in, like, a true, what is it? The ABC Invoke deck. But, Black Rose is supposed to be in my extra deck, and I actually do play Black Rose for this deck because it's insane. I'm just lending it to another deck right now. And to, basically, to supplement for the missing Black Rose, we have Formula Synchron. This card, it's very difficult to go into. The only way you can actually go into this is if you have Quan and if you have Rosenix, which is not that hard to pull off, but you go through a lot of like detours just to make this card. And really, I'm making it because it's like, it's still a machine. It lets me draw and it lets me sync on my opponent's turn. And it being a level 2 really helps because I can make really, really powerful synchro plays. Especially going into this guy on my opponent's turn, which is really strong. So, Formula Synchron helps, and this is what I replace my Black Rose Dragon with. Once I am done doing what I'm doing with the other deck, I'm going to take this out and put my Black Rose back in, because Black Rose has always been a staple for this deck because you can use Quandax and Black Rose your opponent during their turn. And then we have Ally of Justice Catastor because he's a machine and he's pretty strong. And then we have Powered in Zectron. He's a machine and he stops you from being OTK'd. You take no effect damage and no battle damage. And then you have Stealth Ninja, one of my favorites. This is like a tech. I really like Stealth Ninja a lot. He's standalone. He's just so great. And the only links you play are 2 Mastar Boys. You really don't need 3. 3 does come up, but that's when you're being greedy and you're not using the second Mastar Boy to recycle the first one. Instead, you're using it to add something back. And you only ever do that when you have to. So 3 comes up sometimes, but games normally don't last super long with this deck. Normally you take up to turn 5, and then the victor is determined after that. That's it for the deck profile, you guys. Leave your honest opinion and feedback on what you think of my take of Crystrons. I am missing a Scrap Recycler and a Mathematician. That does make a difference, but other than that, the deck is where I want it to be. There's no upgrades that I'm really trying to make. I'm enjoying it how it is. The extra deck just needs work. We need Needlefiber. Needlefiber is good in his own deck. But God bless you guys. Make good choices. Don't hurt your brain cells, and stay tuned for future content. You know I got you on all of your requests. In fact, I need to just make a video and have you guys drop in the comments all the requests you need to make so that I can keep track of it just accordingly and in an organized fashion. But I'm going to move forward to the next video, and y'all be hearing from me soon.